Danny, I want to begin our show with something Ian Rappaport said over the weekend. He is predicting that Washington is busy in free agency. He thinks they're going to be one of the big players. They obviously have top 5 money. Depending on where you look, everyone's got a different figure. I find it funny that in some places, the Commanders have $66 million in cap space. Other places, it's upwards of close to $80 million. But they're in the top 3, basically. And certainly
they're up there.
Top 5, depending on the list you're looking at, in overall cap space. They could easily create a lot more space, by the way. Marshawn Lattimore, the moment he comes off the books, space is created. If they wanted to do away with Daron Payne and create another $16 or so million, they could absolutely do that. So they're not hurting for money. They could easily get more money added to their bank account for free agency. But listen to what Ian Rappaport of NFL Network had to say about the Commanders this offseason.
And now you have where the Commanders are this year, and they still have a lot of cap space. They're coming off a really disappointing season. A lot of the players they used to build 2 years ago when they made the run to the NFC title game have, no offense to them, gotten a little older. It happens to all of us. It even happens to me and you, Mike. You get a little older and someone says, indeed, it's time to maybe turn the page. Don't turn the page on us. But for the Washington Commanders, I wonder how active an offseason they have. Adam Peters has been aggressive. He has made trades, made a couple of big ones last offseason. It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here, just knowing how important it is, how much space they have, and the window they have with a good young quarterback. The time to spend is now, and obviously this is something we are going to be tracking throughout the offseason.
Fireworks.
Here we go.
Fireworks this offseason, he said.
Here we go.
What is this, July 4th? Am I on my boat with Dennis Paulson in 1998 on the Potomac River, getting ready to watch the shows in both Colonial Beach and Dahlgren? Is that what this is about?
Head on a swivel down there with the big stuff.
I'm eating watermelon and whatever sandwiches Mom packed, and it's the night of July 4th, and there's a little fog overhead, and I want it to go away, so I have the best view of the fireworks. Is that what we're doing here? He also said something important, something that I agree with, something that I keep acknowledging, which is the time to strike is now. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to pay Jaden Daniels all of the money. He will be getting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars from this organization as the answer, the franchise quarterback, the unquestioned starter for years and years to come, assuming he's healthy. The time to win and to add and to bring in other pieces is before he makes all that money. So bring on the fireworks. Let me light some of the fuses. I want a show this offseason.
Here is my hope, my most sincere hope, that Ian Rappaport heard this. Not looking at reasonable factors, right? Not looking at things.
That's
right.
Him editorialized.
Yeah, so
he's predicting that he thinks they could do this.
So this is what happens sometimes when you have the reporter also kind of weighing in on topics, right? The line has been blurred over the years. So you and me going, look at this roster. It was a bad roster to begin with, and they've got 30 free agents, and they've got cap room out the ears. Let's go. Supermarket sweep style. Go to the salamis. Go get the big turkeys. Get all the gallons of milk. Let's go. That's what we're hoping, because that makes the most sense. I'm hoping that he heard that, and it's not just, well, I see 2 and I see a 2 here. I'm likely to get 4. I'm hoping that somebody told him, just you wait, buckle up, buttercup, or something to that effect. Whether it's an agent, whether it's somebody on the inside, I don't know. But that's my sincerest hope is these are smart people. They see it. I see it. I know you can't fix everything in one offseason, but you can do a lot.
I admit on this show routinely that I care about subtleties and nuances of the reporting game way more than I should and way more than most of our listeners, and so I try not to spend too much time diving too deep into those. But the difference between reporting and saying is one that most people don't acknowledge or care about, but it's real. And he is not reporting something, he is saying something. But when you are an Adam Schefter or an Ian Rappaport, when you are one of the preeminent newsbreakers in the NFL industry, even when you say something, the assumption is that you are providing some informed speculation. You don't get to just be willy-nilly with your takes like you're on a shouty show on ESPN. A lot of the times when I say something on this show, it's my own opinion. It's a talk show, right? But I am, if I have information from somebody else, going to couch that as kind of my take and pass that along from smarter people than me. And to your point, I hope he is absolutely doing that. Now, it's not like you should or will go out and just sign a bunch of stars to 4 or 5 year contracts. Number one, it's a bad free agent crop, just generally, compared to other years. Juxtapose 26 to previous years at a lot of positions, it's a fairly weak free agent market. So spending huge money at every position doesn't make a lot of sense. That's number one. Number two, Washington's roster also suggests that they're going to have to bring a lot of guys in on 1-year deals, in my opinion.
To fill it out, yeah.
They don't have bodies.
Right, they don't have bodies.
Look, I'll give you a couple positions to make my point. Look at receiver. They have Terry McLaurin, former third-rounder Luke McCaffrey, former fourth-rounder Jalen Lane. That is the entire roster right now, the entire depth chart at wide receiver. Debo set for free agency, Noah Brown, Traylon Burks, Chris Moore. All the guys that caught the passes this year, other than McLaurin, McCaffrey, and Lane, are set for free agency. So you need at least 3, if not 4 or 5, additions at receiver. That doesn't mean 4 guys on multi-year deals. That's a lot of those 1-year contract, KJ Osborne, Chris Moore, tire-kicking operations. Another position like this, Danny, is defensive end. Dorrance Armstrong was well on his way to a career year. He's coming back from injury. You know what you have at defensive end under contract right now? Armstrong, who was hurt and missed most of the year, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who was hurt and missed most of the year. That is the entire depth chart at defensive end. Armstrong and Jean-Baptiste, that is it. Wise, free agent. Holmes, free agent. Von Miller, free agent. Drake Jackson, free agent. Jacob Martin, my guy and your guy, free agent. Preston Smith, free agent. So they've got to go bring in a handful of dudes on 1-year deals.
Just to have 53.
Just to have bodies.
I know we don't, like, you and I have said this a bunch. I don't want to speak for you, but you tell me if you disagree with anything I've said. I want to stop majoring in older player 1-year deal where everybody goes, yeah, okay, that makes sense, and you get something out of it. You're looking for, they threw a bunch of wacky wall walkers at the wall with Cleveland Farrell and Dante Fowler, and it worked with Fowler, right? Worked out with Armstrong. They gave him a couple years, but enough of those 1-year deals where these are key contributing starters. You have to do that to fill out the 53, though, right? There's going to be some of that. So I hope people can offer or can see a distinguishing line between here is key starter, guy that's going to be leaned upon in a role where you're going to lead your position group in snaps or be close to it in all likelihood, versus, dude, they literally need human bodies to get to 53 because of the nature of the roster, because of all the turnover, because of all the free agents, etc. You can't give everybody that 3 to 5 year deal with a void year on the back end and put yourself in salary cap hell. I want them to go big game hunting. They need to, because they need a blue chip upgrade on this roster, full stop. They also, though, still need bodies. And what you prioritize, because that might, even though they got a lot of cap space, it can go quick. If you give a couple guys $20-some million, all of a sudden you're looking at, well, I got to sign my draft picks, and I still need 26 guys to make 53. I don't know that I can do that anymore. So as soon as you prioritize something with a couple big deals, and I think they will do that to some degree, you're going to have to go kind of around the bargain areas in some spots. And
but
you
that's
need to be
normal.
You need to be sharp when you do that, but I think that's coming. Yes, I don't know if people are ready for it.
Everybody knows that, and everybody gets that. What I'm talking about is the Javon Kinlaw contract that they gave out 1 of in 2 off seasons. I want 3 of those, right? Like, I want 4 of those. There needs to be more big game hunting this offseason than they have done as a staff to find longer-term solutions, answers for guys that are not just starters this year. It's a binary, Danny. Yep. You're either kicking the can down the road with a problem, using duct tape as the solution when you go sign a running back for 2 years like Austin Eckler, who's aging, or some veteran Noah Igbenogany 1-year player, Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner 1-year player. Now, a lot of those things worked, and so they re-upped and did another year.
Yeah.
But basically what you did is you just lined the can back up and you kicked it again. Eventually, you need to build your roster, ideally through the draft, with a lot of cheap assets and mid and late round picks that can fill some of those depth roles, right? But what they really have not done is spent significantly. And I'm not condoning that you have to have, a New England Patriots offseason, or even that they should have that, where New England last year spent the most money. They batted 1,000.
And they had an unbelievable shooting percentage. That's not replicable.
It was unbelievable what I would say Vrabel was heavily involved, honestly, in that front office. But we'll give Elliott Wolf, the GM, the credit. What they were able to do as a group does not happen, and they did it. They get to the Super Bowl because of it. And at their defensive levels, up front with Milton Williams, linebacking core with Spillane, secondary with Carlton Davis, and those are just kind of the start. They had Harold Landry and other guys that they brought in as well. They did such a good job at getting everything right that they went from really bad to really good overnight. Seattle spent the fourth most money. Even still, I would look at Seattle and I would point to John Schneider's draft history and I would say they didn't get to the Super Bowl because of free agency. They got to the Super Bowl because of how they've drafted. But the Commanders are chasing their tail. They aren't able to supplement with their own internal pieces because of the void of the terrible draft years of Rivera. And if we're being honest, while there's been some good under Peters, like the batting average, the shooting percentage is not perfect.
It's not overwhelming, yeah.
So it's going to take a lot of time if you're only adding 3 guys per draft. If you're only picking 5 or 6 times like they have the last 2 years. So you know what you need to do? You need to help yourself. That's where the money comes in. So when I hear RapSheet talking about fireworks, that tells me wide receiver 2 making $18 million a year. That tells me inside linebacker making $13 million a year, hopefully. That tells me edge rusher who comes in here at, I don't know, 10, 12 million bucks. But you can also then draft one at 7 to compete. But I hope by the time that the draft rolls around, they have added a handful of defensive starters so that they get to draft based on how they would like to operate and not have to do something out of need at number 7. If you don't have a green dot yet at Mike linebacker, or you don't have an edge yet opposite Dorrance Armstrong, so you have to take Styles at linebacker or Bailey at edge, it's the wrong way to do it. They're going to supplement. This is what Peters has done really, really well. They'll have a bunch of guys they bring in here who might be able to start, and then you get to kind of operate more freely in the draft, which I like, but I want some bigger swings. We should not be sitting around 3-4 days into free agency, and it's just a bunch of mini deals and the bargain shopping. That's not what I'm looking for.
100% agree. And you mentioned something, and I've harped on this a million times over, and a lot of fans were really upset about this year. I was too. It was miserable. I didn't have much fun, just like everyone else did, or did not, as the case was. But I understand why they doubled down. I mean, they went the, hey, let's try to be okay and establish something and build that way path, and it worked better than anybody's plan has ever worked. Like, nobody's ever had a better, oh, I can't believe that worked out. When that came up roses. Would you look at that? Like, that's a toxic oil spill that gave me superpowers with no ill effects. It was unbelievable when they went to the NFC title game and had the most success they've had in more than 30 years. That's not made up. That's real. So, of course, you go back to that approach. Now a different approach is needed, to your point. And that's the thing I've been kind of hammering. I don't judge their player acquisition as harshly last year as I will this year if there's not a huge paradigm shift. If they don't do things markedly differently, then it's time to ask some really serious questions. Because I would have done the same thing. I mean, I with a move here or there, I understood why you went for Marshawn Lattimore. I would have let him go and gone after a free agent, even just knowing that I'd have to eat those draft picks. I think there are better players out there that could have helped them a lot more. That's one example. That wouldn't have made them a 12-win team, though, right? They weren't going to be good either way. This is now you got to show me that you're capable of doing it the other way. I saw you master the bargain DVD bin. Oh, look, here's Die Hard for $3. You did that. Now go find me some Oscar winners.
And by the way, it's a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
That helps in the short term, but it is not a sustainable way to operate because it's so hard to do that every offseason. My point is, yesterday when we went through that Matt Bowen list of the top 50 free agents and who the best fits for every player were, he had Quay Walker, the linebacker from Green Bay, coming off 130 tackles, wearing the green dot as Washington. He had Isaiah Likely, the tight end, who's ready to explode, coming into his own, former Coastal Carolina star, as a commander. I'm just throwing like Romeo Dobbs as a wide receiver as a placeholder onto that list. There are a bunch of guys. But if they have an offseason where they sign 3 or 4 players of that ilk to a lot of money, and then around that they do all of the one-year deal stuff, I think that's fireworks. That qualifies as fireworks.